On to the stories. Universities haven't been spared from the country's worsening electricity crisis. Many tertiary institutions are forking out millions of rand every day to keep lecture halls and other facilities up and running. Despite government interventions, rolling blackouts aren't expected to end anytime soon. So what are the long-term effects on university finances? University South Africa CEO Dr. Phethiwe Matutu joins us now virtually to give us more. Thank you very much, Doc, for your time here on eNCA. Just firstly, are you able to tell us, if possible at all, maybe some information that you gathered from government or your own research, exactly how much universities are spending either on a daily or monthly basis to try and keep the lights on, your diesel, etc.?
Good evening to you and the viewers of eNCA. Thank you very much for having University of South Africa here. Indeed, I'm able to state the effect of load shedding on universities, including the amount of money the amount of money spent by universities in trying to mitigate the effects of load shedding. Looking at the current situation, most of the funds which are being spent are spent on diesel or petrol to power the generators. And the universities are spending, when we're talking about stage 3 of load shedding, they're spending between 1,233 per day for the smallest university to about 196,000 rand per day on the big ones. That's when we have stage 3. When we have stage 6, the smallest university spends about 2,600 per day on load shedding, and the biggest university with many campuses spends about 2.2 million per day.
That is astonishing numbers there, Doc. Looking at how much load shedding, not that this has not been a problem in South Africa for a couple of years now, but with the Fees Must Fall protests and students asking to at least just be given some reprieve or be given some money that the university has, is this also part of the problem, the fact that the university has to now redirect finances to this emergency suddenly?
It is a problem because it is an additional cost. And what is worrisome about it is that not all universities are able to deal with it comprehensively. There are institutions which feel that they've got a few generators which are just inadequate to continue with the day-to-day activities of the university. There are those which have put in contingency play means to mitigate against load shedding. So we're looking at alternative energy supply, which consists of hybrid energy sources, which would include your solar and your storage capacity. Backup generators, uninterruptible power supply, and inverter batteries. And all of this hybrid mix of energy supply is quite significant for universities. Not to mention that after having done all of that, you find out that not all the teaching and learning is able to continue. Not all the operations of the university are able to continue. So we are talking about a situation where it's just a stopgap, which is insufficient to enable the university to fully function. And we have seen some of the universities having water supply problems as a consequence of the energy supply inefficiencies. So that means that over and above providing electricity supply, alternative electricity supply, they have to provide water supply. Institutions which are in the rural areas ensure that they provide additional water tanks and with water tested frequently so that that's fit for human consumption. So that is additional expenditure as a consequence of load shedding, because they have to use pumps to draw the water from the reservoirs.
And I mean, looking at the fact that load shedding is going to be with us for a while, are you hoping that, the same way Eskom was able to exempt, for instance, your hospitals or some of our public hospitals in South Africa, that the higher education department will also soon be considered?
That would be wonderful if it's possible for some of the campuses to be exempted from the load shedding. And indeed, some have approached their municipalities considering the negative effects of a load shedding on the operations of the higher education institutions. That would be wonderful and be number one in terms of solutions. However, extra funds could be provided by a government, as I'm mentioning. A daily amount of about 2.2 million is no child's play if we're talking about mitigating against load shedding. And not to mention the amount of time which is lost to teaching and learning as a consequence of that, because students do not have Wi-Fi facilities, and they are using online teaching and learning sometimes just to catch up from their day-to-day activities within classes. So there are laboratories, there are specimens which have to be kept in particular conditions.
Yeah.
If it's a cold fridge, it has to be a cold fridge. So all these things add up, meaning that extra funds to make sure that the universities are able to operate in the short term would be ideal. And then medium term, getting universities to have a clear strategy for this mitigation and the appropriate alternative on energy means and mixes to make sure that they operate would be great. And in the long term, getting some of the universities off grid would be wonderful.
Well, thank you very much for speaking to us there, Doc, and for your time this evening here on eNCA. That was University South Africa CEO, Dr. Phethiwe Matutu.